At this time, I would like to turn the program over to our Executive Director of the National Space Society, a very capable woman whom I've really come to admire in the last few months for all she's been able to do for us. Pat Dasch.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you for a really inspiring talk. I'm just waiting for that Pluto mission. We have to finish getting through the solar system. We're getting to the fun part of the evening now. Does anyone need a 7th inning stretch before we move on? No?
You want to admit it.
Okay. Well, we're just moving on now to the awards banquet. And I'm going to start. My first job is a real easy one. As you all know, we decided to move into totally new territory late last year. We decided to mount a film contest. One area of space support and enthusiasm that we really hadn't ventured into before. And the film contest was the brainchild of one of our leading lights, our very own man from Mars, Robert Zubrin. And he's going to come up and share with you the results of the Apollo film competition. Bob.
Don't try your luck. It is the case that no movement, social, political, religious, labor, has ever really succeeded unless it was able to convey its message not only in words but through music, because music is a way to communicate at a deeper level, to touch the heart, to communicate your real message to large groups of people. And so, when I was chairman, I decided that we should try to promote the development of music that conveys the message of why we need to pioneer space to the public at large. And so we launched this contest called the Apollo Awards. Apollo, of course, being both symbolic of the greatest achievement of the human spaceflight exploration program to date, and also, of course, the Greek god who was responsible for music as well. So we put out the word in Ad Astra. Some people undoubtedly have seen it. A lot of people saw it. And we got 28 contestants sent in their tapes, in some cases CDs, and a number of these people sent in multiple entries. We had all kinds of music submitted. We had opera. We had art songs. We had folk songs. We had jazz, bluegrass. We had country music. We had rock and roll. We had very contemporary kinds of rock and roll. We had it all. And the songs were sent out to a panel of 6 judges who graded them all for both the music, for lyrics, and of course for message. And and we scored them up, and the top 10 winners will be published in Ad Astra. The top 3, I'll just mention here. The 3rd place winner was Stan Clardy, someone who's sort of new to most of us, but he is from North Carolina, and he did quite a nice song called Big Blue Sky, and it's kind of autobiographical, as you'll see. The 2nd place winner was Leslie Fish, who is known to many of us. And she did a neat song called Queen Isabella, Where Are You Now? And the 1st place winner, though, is a teacher from Illinois. His name is Mike Penkava, and he's here with us, along with his friend Mary Lizio, and they are going to perform the song, Now's the Time to Touch a Star. And we'll have that, and then after that, I think we got enough time to play tapes of the other two. And those of you who want to hear some of the others after this is over, we can play the fourth and fifth place as well at the end of the event, not now. I guess at this point I'd like to invite Mike up and Lizio, to come and perform the song, and also to accept this plaque for the first place, for the first Apollo Award, and there will be another contest next year.
Thank you. I was afraid I'd just get a schematic of this. You know, as Dr. Zubrin said, I'm just a third grade teacher, and it's kind of intimidating with Mr. O'Neill, Mr. Walker, you know, guys that know about space. I picked up there is a planet called Jupiter and Earth in that last presentation. But you know, I'm usually singing for maybe the biggest audience I sing for is about 32 8 and 9-year-old kids. So I'm kind of out of my element right about now. But maybe if I could, if you could help me to feel a little at ease. If anyone during the song wants to go to the bathroom, just raise your hand. And we'll stop, you know. And Dr. Zubrin, you had 4 cups of coffee. You can go right now. And take Mr. Perlman as your bathroom buddy. You know, writing a song about space, you know, songwriters usually try to take a subject and narrow it down. And, you know, of course, space is, you know, it's the final frontier. This is the ultimate broad subject. And scientists tell us that space is expanding, so now I'm trying to narrow down a subject that's expanding on me. So it's kind of tough. And so I first came up, if I was to narrow it down, if I can give you indulge me for a moment here, because I don't get to play for 100 space guys too often, so I'm just stay up here. Like Mr. O'Neill did. Any questions at this point? But she might have to go to the bathroom pretty soon. But I narrowed it down to a song about astronaut. This was the first one that I did. And by the way, Mary and I, we've never performed together. She's a friend of the family. Tell me what you do.
I'm a muralist.
Now, I asked her, what's a muralist? And you
I paint on walls.
Yeah, she does murals. I never knew there was a mural.
But
so.
please stop you.
So here's what I came up first when I narrowed it down. A song about my favorite astronaut. I want to go to the moon because I want to be like Buzz. Cause I want to be like Buzz. Cause I want to be like Buzz. And I was, just say, a little disappointed that I didn't get to meet Buzz tonight. He went to,
Very disappointed.
I almost went back home. But Mr. Perlman, don't feel bad. He's going to try to arrange something because my kids, in preparation, you know, third grade, so they're wonderfly exuberant, exciting people. And they heard that their teacher's going to meet Buzz Aldrin, which you promised. And I'm venting right now. And so they wrote, you know, one of our assignments is, what would you, if you could write to Buzz Aldrin, ask him a question, what would you ask him? So I have a wonderful pile of questions. One of my favorites was, when you were on the moon, who took your picture? That's wonderful, because often the second fellow, who was that guy? My kids focused on the second guy, Mr. Aldrin. And they had, well, do you ever hear of a guy named Neil Armstrong? Okay. Because they just love Buzz Aldrin. So I came up with that, but then I thought, you know, space exploration is bigger than any one man, even if it is Buzz Aldrin, my favorite astronaut. So I came up with a ballad that I thought would it would have a lot of space on. So here's what we came with. We got notes here because I'm scared to death. It's me and you with an MMU on an EVA to the stars. Who needs SRBs when you're feeling no G's?
Boy, abbreviations can take you far.
I thought, is that too technical? And so I asked Mary, just, I just walked it down and said, Mary, what's an SRB?
Seems real bad.
And say that again.
Seems really bad.
SRB, get it right? I had to tell her now it's really Super Rocket Buddies. Everybody knows
I
that.
thought you said Super Rocket Bunnies.
Anyway, I thought that's too technical, so let's do something more down to earth, which is a wonderful concept, a space song that's down to earth. But you are a unique crowd, I'll tell you. It's just neat to sit back there and watch it. Couldn't understand any of the questions. But anyway, here's what we came up with. What's more down to earth kind of music than country and western? Elementary. So here's what we came up with. I'm gonna step in here. What if
NASA built a pickup truck that could go to outer space?
and there were bars on the planet Mars, and Elvis owned the place? And I thought, what if NASA really is working on a space pickup truck? They'll call it the Squid, And now I'm giving away secrets they'll never win the contest, so I jettisoned that idea. And I launched into this one. Oh, they're dangerous. Anyway, this is what we came up with. By the way, I did record it in the studio. I have this little karaoke machine in my third grade classroom. We use it all the time with a little microphone. And I recorded it, and when I played it back, for myself, I thought, this is not really good. Because karaoke, it has all the clicks and hisses and things. And I played it for the kids. They wanted to hear it. And they thought it was just awesome. They thought, this is the greatest song. Send it in. I said, but all these other guys are going to send their CDs that were sent in, and they're recording studios, and they got sound effects, and they got harmonies and instruments. Mine sounds kind of bad. And one little girl, little Kyra, raises her hand. She says, Mr. Pete, I got to tell you something. She says, if your song is good enough, it doesn't matter how bad it sounds. And all the other kids said, yeah! And I'm sitting there thinking, what is she talking about? But, the third grade mind and the childness of those kids, I thought, I'll just go along with you. So, here we are. So, when you listen to this, just remember that if the song was good enough, it doesn't matter how bad it sounds tonight. In fact, I've got, I don't know if we could get, that was kind of neat to see. We're having all this technical stuff about Jupiter and couldn't turn off the machine. But see if we can get this up here. Oh, that looks good. That's the chorus now. No, the chorus comes after the verses. Oh yeah, you guys.
They're going to be good. I know it. I can feel it.
So you can join in with that, and we're going to make you sing toward the end if we don't hear you. So, here you go. Long, long ago, man looked up to the sky, wondering what and questioning why in that distant past a journey was born that's taken us far, far from home.
We looked down with thought and we planned out a trip as mankind's reach exceeded its grip to the moon and beyond, where no starry-eyed gaze to places we never had known.
Here comes the chorus.
Now's the time for us to touch a star.
If we want to
Learn, we must travel far.
there is much
To seen, so we must still explore to find out just what there are heavens for. With our telescopes we were able to see places where someday we hope we could be. As planets and stars came into our view, we wondered how far we could go. Our rockets were launched and with them went our dreams of exploring places we only had seen. We all felt the wonder as we touched the moon, but there were things we still wanted to know. Here we go. Now's the time for us to touch a star. If we want to learn, we must travel far. There is much to see, so we must still explore to find out just what there are heavens for. Now we find ourselves searching for more, looking for places that we can explore. If only we keep on watching the sky, there is so much work to be done. So look to the stars and the heavens above to discover things we've never dreamt of. Keep on the watch and never give up. The journey has only begun. Now's the time for us to touch a star. If we want to learn, we must travel far. There is much to see, so we must still explore to find out just what there are heavens for. And let's just let you guys sing it. Get started. Let's listen to the space guys sing. 3, 4, get started. Here we go. Now's the time for us to touch a star. If we want to learn, we must travel far. There is much to see, so we must still explore to find out just what there are heavens for. To find out just what there are heavens for. To find out just what there are heavens for. You thanking just one person or a few.
That's 3X.
That's what kids call me back then. There's a little boy back in Crystal Lake who one day at school, he comes to school with an Ad Astra magazine. And we have sharing time. That's what we used to call show and tell. Now they call it sharing time. In math, we used to have story problems. Now we have number stories. Yeah, they laugh. Cape Canaveral, Cape Kennedy, Cape Canaveral. But I told this boy I would mention his name. His name is Andy Jerky. And Andy brings us Ad Astra on sharing time. He says, I think Mr. P ought to enter this contest. When we go through it, we read it, we got down to the $30 fee. I said, I'm a teacher, I don't work for NASA for crying out loud. But I wanted to thank him and all the other kids in that class. There's a picture about 30 little kids and the bright faces saying, go for it. And I really didn't have a lot of confidence in myself, but they gave me that confidence. They encouraged me. So I want to thank Andy and my third grade kids for encouraging me and giving me that idea and teaching me that lesson. And I think all of us can appreciate that, if something's good enough, it doesn't matter how bad it sounds.
we've got the rights to that song, right?
We have the rights to use it on a tape, non-exclusive. Okay, now, yes, and it remains to be decided and discussed and figured out, but we hope to make a tape or a CD of the top 10 of the Apollo Awards, and because we got a lot of good stuff there. How about that first place? Because that would, I think that's going to be too tough an act for some tapes to follow. I'll save the tapes till at the end of the event. Those people who want to hear some of the other contenders when the event ends, we'll play them at that time. But thanks a lot.
This is kind of intimidating. I have the chorus sitting here, so if I see any of you starting to doze off back there, we'll do another chorus. Right, now we're into NSS Awards time, and I see John Strickland standing in the back of the room, a gentleman who's been trying to talk to me all weekend, and I've been in meetings all the time. John is someone we're really indebted to for the award I'm going to begin with. Every 2 years, the members of the National Space Society vote to nominate a recipient of the Robert A. Heinlein Memorial Award. This award honors individuals who've made significant contributions to the creation of a free spacefaring civilization. These contributions can be in any form, but those who have had a very active personal, social, or financial risk are particularly deserving of this nomination. For this reason, the National Space Society is particularly pleased to announce the winner of the 1998 Robert Heinlein Memorial Award is Carl Sagan. Hey, my scriptwriter didn't do too well. It says pause for applause at this point. Okay. Dr. Sagan demonstrated his ability to bridge that gap between the scientist and the lay public, and interested millions by his series Cosmos. Even though in later years the founder of the Planetary Society really concentrated more on robotic missions, towards the end of his life, he became converted somewhat to the role of humans. And he remained a very popular character to the end of his life, both with the membership of the Planetary Society and with our members. His vision was a vision for all of us. In December 1996, the National Space Society, along with many others, had the very sad task of issuing statements following the death of Dr. Sagan. It was a very difficult task at that time to encapsulate just what this extraordinary person had done for space science, for space exploration, and for enthusiasm for going out into space. At that time, our chairman, Buzz Aldrin, who we do regret is not here this evening, said Carl was beyond a doubt the most outstanding contributor to human inspiration and to thoughts of beyond the Earth. And Charlie Walker, who is with us tonight, also said Carl Sagan was an insightful scientist, but above other scientists, he was a brilliant communicator. Sagan heard the universe and translated it for humanity. And I think that really, Charlie, portrayed what Carl Sagan was all about for most of us. Unfortunately, because the award result was available to us so late, Annie Droyan, Carl's widow, was unable to arrange for any family member to be here to accept the award tonight, but she did send me a letter which arrived by fax yesterday, and I must admit it moved me to tears when I first read it yesterday. She says, if we only had some means of quantifying how many individuals were first inspired to pursue a life in space science because of some goosebumps raised by an idea or an image in a Robert Heinlein story, I suspect it will be a significant number of the contributors to the community of space exploration. Carl Sagan understood better than most the imagination and skepticism are needed in equal measure to advance the scientific enterprise. I recall Carl's admiration for Robert Heinlein's work and thank you wholeheartedly for an honour I know Carl would have cherished. Sincerely, Annie. And I want to thank John Strickland for his work in continuing to not only construct but also to handle the voting process for the Heinlein Award. John, thank you very much. Yes, John, you do have the award with you, right? It's excuse me, it is on display over there. See, I haven't seen that side of the room. I'm now going to move on to the Space Pioneer Awards. These awards are presented every year to individuals both inside and outside the National Space Society who have made significant contributions during the previous year to advancing our goals of space development and exploration. And the first Space Pioneer Award that we're going to award, and I must apologize that not many of the awardees are here. It is very hard to talk people into coming, giving up their Memorial Day weekend, especially at short notice, but we're glad to have some with us. First couple I'm going to announce are not present with us. The first category is that of Legislator. Early last year, our recipient tonight was responsible for introducing the Commercial Space Act of 1997. That act has gone further than other such acts have gone before, and it's thanks in part to the tireless efforts of this particular representative, his committee staff, and activists around the country who have encouraged him in this endeavour. The act was passed out of the House in November of last year, and it made its way into the Senate. It was introduced there this February and was reported out of committee in May, and the latest we're hearing is that it may see further travels in June if we're lucky, but more likely July. So you know that all your letters that we recently delivered to Congress are to great effect. Early in its passage, we thought that act might move through rather swiftly. In an election year with a lot of partisan politics going on, with space not very high on the political agenda, it needs all the help it can get, and we do appreciate the help you, our members, have been giving to pushing this along. For his introduction and continuing support of the Commercial Space Act, we are awarding the Space Pioneer Award for Legislator to the Chairman of the House Science Committee, Representative James Sensenbrenner. And I'm very happy, of course, to be able to announce that in his home state, we will take an opportunity in Washington, D.C. to present the award, and we'll make sure you see photographs on the web and in Ad Astra magazine. As next Space Pioneer Award for this year goes to the category of scientist, and the person we've awarded it to is no stranger to you. It's Dr. Alan Binder for his work with lunar prospecting. Those of you who attended Alan's talks or the sessions yesterday, and those of you who came to lunch know that because Alan had to leave us yesterday, we took the opportunity to present his award to him at the luncheon yesterday. Alan has been with Prospector virtually from the outset since we got involved, certainly in 1989, and He continues to be a preeminent space activist. He is absolutely committed to flying Prospectors 2, 3, and 4 as commercial missions, having got his lift and his first launch courtesy of NASA. He is going to go it independently from here on. And those of you who heard him speak yesterday know that he regards the mission that he's flying right now as very much our mission, an activist mission that wouldn't have come about without all the support that the activist community gave it. And we'll look at ways of continuing to work with him. And indeed, we are working with him. He's actually coming to Washington later this week, and will be going to the Hill with us to start lobbying for a next round of commercial space legislation to help enable the sorts of things that Jim Benson and Alan Binder want to do in the future. So his agenda is very closely coordinated with ours, and we wish him not only great congratulations on the mission now in progress, which seems to have brought us some vitally important information about water on the moon, but also in the future. Our next recipient of a Space Pioneer Award is the award for business and entrepreneurial effort, and actually ties rather closely to the previous award. As if Lunar Prospector wasn't enough of a mission in itself, this recipient adds yet another dimension to the newness and difference of Lunar Prospector. The project I'm referring to is Moonlink, which resulted from an innovative partnership between the federal government, industry, and academia. It became indeed a true link between the scientific and educational communities. Moonlink is a privately financed effort coordinated by Space Explorers, Inc., and it's made it possible for students not only throughout the US but around the world to interact and interpret data directly via the internet from the Lunar Prospector mission. Through tireless campaigning and promotion, Moonlink has been more successful than our winner's greatest dreams going into this project. He's brought Moonlink and the Moonlink package to more than 600 schools here in the US, and another 50 in sites in Canada, Japan, India, Thailand, Germany, Italy, Panama, Korea, Norway, Ukraine, and the United Kingdom. We're very proud to be a partner with the winner of the 1997 Space Pioneer Award for Business Entrepreneur, and that is going to the founder of Space Explorers Incorporated and the creator of Moonlink, Mr. George French.
I want to thank the National Space Society for giving this awesome award to us, for the educational program which we put together. I admit I was rather stunned when I heard we won this prize. This is pretty heady territory, and the other people who have received this are truly the winners. The other people who have received prizes tonight are truly the winners, including that songwriter. I was a little stunned first because we're not really done with our job yet. We have a lot of work to be done. Secondly, I still consider myself a student of space, and I've always felt that teachers are really the people who should be the recipients of this award. I learned from Peter Kokh every time I talk to him. The man is a walking library on the moon. I learned from Julius Dasch, a teacher himself, and someone I consider a mentor. He certainly is one of the greatest space educators in the United States. He gave Moonlink, our education programs, the key that unlocked access to high schools, which was a required standards-based curriculum. He also knew, but he didn't tell me, the true magnitude of this undertaking at the time. I learn every time I listen to Alan Binder. The depth and breadth of his knowledge has never ceased to amaze me. As the principal investigator of the Lunar Prospector program, he sets the tone in the leadership. Alan's uncompromising goal is cheap access to the space program, public access to the space program. For our part, we take our lead from him, which is cheap access to space education. We deliver a standards-based curriculum, 150 by 150 research square on the lunar surface, a live and simulated internet mission with a satellite, and ongoing data research for $18 per student across the country. Any high school or middle school class with an internet connection can become a contributing part of a NASA Discovery mission. I would also like to mention another person, what has been commonly referred to as a professor. For any of you who have had the chance to meet or had the chance to meet Eugene Shoemaker, he was truly someone that you couldn't help be infected by. He had a love and an enthusiasm for the knowledge that space holds for us that had no bounds. I certainly was infected by him. So I'm a student. We designed the Moonlink program for students. We will now have 800 classes involved by June 15th. We have a strong but very limited marketing program, so any of you people here that would like to get schools involved in the space program, we have brochures. Take them back to your schools, talk to your teachers, let us know who they are, and we'll contact them. We'll follow through. Our goal is to have 2,000 schools involved by the mission's end in 1999. We have already entered into a contract with Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Lab for follow-on missions. We have two other organizations I can't name now that we're in contract negotiations for in conjunction at the same time as those missions. I'd like to give you some cost comparison, but comparing our program, like rockets, you can compare cost per pound. Ours are a little different. There's really nothing quite like ours. The closest one probably is the GLOBE program. GLOBE is a 4-year program involving 4,000 schools with the Earth Observing System research, mostly high school, middle school. NASA, DOE, Department of Energy, Department of Education, and NSF jointly fund that program and have funded it for over the last 4 years for a total of $50 million. That is about $10,000 per school involved. Put another way, it is, this is a leap of faith, but it is about $10,000 per pound to low Earth orbit. I believe that both the GLOBE program and the Space Shuttle program are good, necessary programs. I also believe that the job can be done for less. I believe we are demonstrating that education can be done for less. We recognize that the long-term goal of the space program, in our opinion, is to have a man or a crew set foot upon Mars. The crew members of that spaceship are sitting in high school and middle school classes today, and those are the people that we want to touch with this program. I want to accept this award in the name of Space Explorers and the very dedicated staff that is involved with it. As there were many contributors and supporters, including this organization, of Alan Binder's Lunar Prospector Program. It is also the case with Space Explorer's Moonland Program. This is a program which NSS has fostered and supported and nourished, and I want to thank you for that. I believe it reflects its membership's desires to contribute to the space program's process, a goal we very definitely share. Thank you very much.
Our final Space Pioneer Award is that of Space Activist of the Year. And this year's winner has been a regular, a staple of the space activist community. Probably the easiest way to describe that person is that he has been a life member. He was a life member number 2 back from the days of the National Space Institute. And if that only gives a few of you a clue as to who I'm talking about, perhaps if I say his true name is Our Man in the Moon, that might get you a little bit closer. For his long years of service to the Society, including founding of the Lunar Reclamation Society, publishing the Moon Miners Manifesto, and I should say that the Lunar Reclamation Society is the longest, has one of the longest running chapter newsletters in the Moon Miners Manifesto. He's also previously served on the board of directors, and he's recognized now, tonight particularly, for his stalwart efforts in organizing this year's ISDC, in spite of a very nasty injury along the way. We're very pleased indeed to offer the Space Pioneer Award for Space Activist of the Year to Peter Kokh.
Until you said life member number 2. When I got a mailing from NSI, inviting people to join the National Space Institute, and I guess at that time they were hard up for members. They had the life membership at $100. Well, I wasn't stupid. My letter was in the mail within an hour. And it's something I've never regretted. I don't want to, this is a long program and I don't want to take it too long, but thank you very much, and I never expected anything like this.
You deserve it, Peter.
Unfortunately, the recipient of our next award is not with us tonight. This is the NSS Headquarters Volunteer Award. This is for service to NSS Headquarters. And we're going to present this award this year at a time later in the year. We hope he'll be in Washington, to someone who has really helped us for a long time at Headquarters. And I'm talking about current director Richard Wagner, who was my predecessor as editor of Ad Astra. Since he retired and gave me the burden, or the fun, the delight of doing Ad Astra in 1995, when he decided to move to Massachusetts, he has actually stayed very active with us. He has been the first editor of Space Notes and has never accepted a penny for all the work he's done on that, and has always been available to us with advice. So many of you know that he has quite a background in fundraising, and has done numerous little jobs behind the scenes, including taking on the January-February issue of Ad Astra. This past one he coordinated to help me when I was trying to carry a double load. When I got into my 6th month of that, and Christmas, it got a little bit heavy. Richard has always been prepared to jump in and help out, and has been a marvellous behind-the-scenes support to us, and we really appreciate the help he has given us. He has recently announced that he will retire as Space Notes editor, and we really appreciate all the help he's given us. Before we move on to another set of awards, I would just like to take a moment to recognize the passage of time and some losses during the last year. We have lost 3 longtime NSS supporters, Jacques Cousteau, John Denver, and Kathy Keaton, all from our Board of Governors, who all passed away in 1997. Both Jacques Cousteau and John Denver were members of the original Board of Directors of the National Space Institute and have been with us a very long time. On a balance with that, I would like to let you know that just earlier today, at the conclusion of our Board of Directors meeting, we accepted the appointment of a new member of the Board of Governors, and we're glad to welcome Bruce Boxleitner to that role. I'm going to just mention 1 or 2 other things before we move on to that very important group of awards, the Chapter Awards, which will round out our evening. I want to recognize just 1 or 2 other people who've made or are making major contributions. I'd like to recognize another person who has given us a great deal of volunteer service, particularly Jeff Liss, who recently resigned as editor of Inside NSS, but who did a marvelous job there for a long time and continues to support us, both with legal advice as a director and as our VP membership. Thank you to Jeffrey. And I want to recognize Michael James, who is our new International Chapters Coordinator. We are a growing organization internationally, and Michael has started out by really re-energizing our Australian chapters, and we're seeing significant growth in Australia, and we're going to try and export the lessons there to other locations and really grow our chapters internationally. I want to also take a moment to remember 1 member of the Metro Orlando Space Society, and that's activist Ed Scull. Many of you at this conference will remember Ed from last year in Orlando. He was the person who was responsible for the exhibits area at that conference. And he also created, how many of you remember the daily newsletter from the conference? He was its creator. He was a member of the Metro Orlando Society from its earlier days, and had joined the chapter's executive board as newsletter editor in 1994. And he had been in bad health for some time, and unfortunately the strain of a bone marrow transplant proved too much for him, and he passed away in April. Now, from this point, I would like to pass the microphone to Shirley Smith, who is Vice President for Chapters. We appreciate enormously what our chapters do. NSS would not be the organization it is wouldn't have anything like the clout that we have without our very strong chapter network. And just because the chapter awards come last on the program does not mean they are least. They are amongst the most significant awards we give, and we appreciate more than I can say all the effort that our members and our chapters put in to our mission. Shirley.
I am a very privileged person. It has been my privilege for the past 5 years to be the person to read the chapter activity reports. And then to try to disseminate from those reports all of the things that chapters do. We really do appreciate all of the volunteers in our chapters who give of their time, their talent, their dedication in order to spread the mission and the message of the National Space Society in their home communities. The chapter awards are based on the activity reports that I just mentioned to you, and the recognition is based on chapters who report multiple activities in the areas of education, outreach, media, project achievement, recruitment, political action, as well as participation in NSS-sponsored supported events. As you know, we've had quite a few this year that involve chapters, this past year, excuse me. I'm going to start with Meritorious Service Awards and just list them. The Education Chapter. If there are any representatives of these chapters, by the way, I'd like you to please stand and be recognized. After all, that is kind of the point, is to be recognized. So I know that we have some members here from the Education Chapter. From Beaver Valley, the DCL5, Sheboygan Space Society, NSS Seattle, National Space Society of Australia Melbourne, National Space Society of Australia Newcastle, National Space Society of Australia Sydney, National Space Society of Australia Brisbane. At least we have two coming a very long way. Okay. The next are the Chapter Special Merit Awards. This is a little bit higher recognition than the Meritorious Service. We'll start with the Boston Chapter for its publication of the electronic newsletter Space Views. Houston Clear Lake NSS for its recruitment and special creative methods of doing so. Middle Tennessee for its production of Space TV. NSS of North Texas for its public outreach efforts. Oasis for its Cassini advocacy and website production. Central Coast NSS of Australia for its kids' experiment at fixing mirrors problems. University of New South Wales, NSS of Australia for solar power project and recruitment efforts. Our three most outstanding chapters for 1997. Our Chapter Excellent Awards goes to Huntsville, Alabama L5 Society for continued dedication to Project Halo, active recruitment for NSS members and volunteers, and public media education and compliments. Oklahoma Space Alliance for their work in public media, outreach, and chapter seating, helping to start a new chapter in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The most outstanding chapter this year is awarded to Orange County Space Society for their work in public media, outreach, education, political action, as well as participation in many national NSS projects related to the movies Contact and Return to the Moon, Space Week, and the Pathfinder landing. Thank you to all of the volunteers in all of the chapters. Everything that you do brings us one step closer. Actually, there's one more group that presents its awards at this conference, and that is Spacecause. Since Mark Hopkins was unable to be here today, his daughter was confirmed today. Joe Redfield from San Antonio, Texas, and Vice President, or Treasurer, is here to do that work. Sorry.
Every year, there's one award that Spacecause gives, and it's the Outstanding Service Award. That award is given to one of the volunteers that continues to support Spacecause. It can't be an officer, it can't be anybody on the board of directors, it can't be any of the paid staff. This year, that award is given to Dr. Michael Fulton. A little bit of history about him. He was a former L5 board member. He's been around a while in the space movement. Former NSS board director. Wrote the space platform for the John Anderson presidential campaign. He's currently a professor of political science at the Fairmont State College in West Virginia. I wanted to get that right there. He teaches courses on space politics, has co-authored a book, and writes numerous papers on the subject. What he's receiving the Outstanding Service Award for this year for Spacecause and his continued work in supporting the phone tree. He is the state coordinator for the phone tree in West Virginia. What the phone tree is a structure in which Spacecause uses to get legislative alerts out. There's approximately 5,000 people who get the message when there's a legislative alert to do some activity in support of space. This last year, since last fall, there's been 3 such alerts, and the last one that is going out is one for solar power satellites. And I want to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Foley. He wasn't able to be here. He was here earlier at the conference for his activities. Also want to use this opportunity to give a plug for the latest legislative alert Spacecause has for solar power satellites. Each one of you in your packet, there was this bright pink insert in there. Look it over. If you can't find it, there'll be more out on the tables out there. Call your congressman, write your letters, let them know what your opinions are. And that concludes... Oh, we have one more. Okay, well then it doesn't conclude it. Okay. So much for that. Yeah.
You can tell that we're really looking to the future and where the people of the life of the new frontier. How would you think we pass our messages? No GPS here. I have a message, I believe it's accurate, that tells me that Ronnie Lajoie has 2 chapters assemblies awards to present. Ronnie.
Good evening. The primary mission of the NSS Chapters Assembly is to help chapters acquire the information and resources they need to grow and thrive. At the Chapters Assembly meeting on Friday, chapter leaders selected 20 critical resources they need this year. Today, a team of people met at a chapter resources workshop to develop proposals to address these needs. Tomorrow morning, the team will present these proposals to interested chapter leaders and NSS directors who will assign priorities and, as available, resources. If you have an interest in strengthening our chapter system, I invite you all to attend 9 to 12:30 in the Gilpatrick room just down the hall. Peter Kokh, Andre on behalf of the NSS Chapters Assembly, I would like to award you with this certificate of appreciation for proposing and facilitating the Chapters Resource Workshop. The recent NSS Strategic Planning Session was a great step forward and a major turning point in the history of our society. NSS is growing up and is becoming a more business-like organization. For 3 days, NSS directors, staff, and chapter leaders came together to address the needs of our society. There was a new sense of cooperation and optimism among the leadership of NSS like never before. If there can be peace in the Middle East and in Northern Ireland, there is much hope for us as well. Karen Mermel, who had to leave early, on behalf of the NSS Chapters Assembly,
Hey, Ronnie.
I would like to award you with the Certificate of Appreciation for organizing the strategic planning session. Thank you very much.
I think that brings us to the end of the formal award ceremony. I'm just going to call on Peter to close things out in here.
Actually, the ISDC committee decided a long time ago it wanted to give a special award to a group of people who inspired us to do this. There's been a team in the Midwest called the Midwest Space Development Corporation, and they have held regional conferences for over 12 years, mostly in Ohio, but in Indiana, Illinois. And this has been a labor of love for them. They took off last year because of personal problems and health, and they're coming back this fall with number 13 in Akron. So at this time, I would like to invite Annette Wood and Jim Wood to receive this award on behalf of all the members of the Midwest Space Development Corporation.
For this award, and we'd like to say that we never could have done all that we have without the help of the National Space Society. In our very first conference in 1985, they gave us great moral support, and they've been a big support ever since. And we have very good members in our group at our table. We'd like to stand up and have them take a bow also.
I'd like to recognize thank the members of my team, without which this could never have happened. My co-chair, Mark Haney.
No, he just went out that way. Miles, keep going. Miles, keep going.
Catch someone. He's
All
still
right.
working.
Let me move backwards. The second most guilty party in respect to helping put together the bid, and when I was ready to quit, coming over and egging me on for a whole day, David Dunlop. I don't know if he's here, but he since for personal reasons had to leave the team. George French, president of ISDC 98, former former president of the Wisconsin Space Business Roundtable, without whose support and contacts we couldn't have done this. Charlotte Nelson, registration. Carol. Bob Bielecki, Robert Bielecki, are you here?
He had to leave.
All right.
He was over there, but he had to leave.
And part of our media team, along with Joe Mikowski, who did the PRs.
Joe's upstairs in operation.
All right. Then these are the people from the chapter from the very beginning, and it was a small corps, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, came some useful help. Mike Shoemaker. And Robert Brancher was part of the team from the beginning. That included some very valuable help to us. His son Carl was the webmaster. And his comrade Mike Kehoe helped arrange the free loan of all the audiovisual equipment, which Bill Catt, who did the program book. Larry Ahern, who from Chicago has been a strong supporter of this chapter and helped found this chapter. He was sort of the program whip. Doug Seitz, who was volunteered to do the proceedings. Rose Eierman, and that's about it. But thank you, crew. I think it's been wonderful. I think all of us have pushed the envelope of the past achievements in rising to the occasion to do this. And I had recognized you when you were out. My second, Mark Haney. Mark was nice enough to tell me, okay, at the start of the conference, Peter, your job is done. You enjoy, and it's my job now to make it work. So thank you very much. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to next year's chair. Unfortunately, she stole my thunder when she said, "Don't you dare say break a leg."
I know you're all anxious to raise your hands and go to the restroom, so I'll make this short. Next year's conference is in Houston, Texas. It's on Memorial Day weekend. You can see me at the table here. I've got the forms. It's only $45 for NSS members. It's going to include your banquet ticket. And you can see me or Murray Fox, raise your hand, Murray, or Doug Hall standing there in the back. That's our core team members. And we're going to have the best conference you've ever seen. We're going to pack the hotel with 1,000 people, and we're going to tour Johnson Space Center, and we're going to have all kinds of wonderful speakers and lots of astronauts, and you're just going to love it. You got to come down to Houston. Thank you.
I think we got a wonderful program tonight, and there's more up in Regency B. Probably in a few minutes, that space-time skit. I hope you'll all enjoy that.
Just a note, Bill Higgins would never let you get out of here live. His wife is in his troop, so all have to be up to Regency B. Take a look in about 15 minutes.